Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Coming up on episode 258 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Maserati Levante Trofeo, the Toyota Corolla Hatchback, Mazda Miata RF, an American-made VW ID4, expanded Super Cruise network, Toyota offering to buy back EVs, and more. All that coming up next. This is episode 258 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam McGool-Sandwich from Guidehouse Insights.
I'm Nicole Wakeland from the Fast Women Podcast.
And I'm Roberto Baldwin from Ars Technica.
And Robbie, you apparently again don't have anything in your driveway. So
do you not drive cars at all anymore?
I'm on like a car sabbatical just because I have so much work to do. And some of it is actually review cars that I just haven't had a chance to write up. And the other is the fact that I have other work that I have to do. And if I have a car, then I want to drive the car. And then of course I need to drive the car. And so I'm like, as a adult, I'm trying to do adult things, and the adult thing right now is to not have any cars for a few weeks until I've caught up.
Being a grown-up.
I know, it's horrible. It's not so bad because I get to drive my BRZ around. So I'm like, I really, really love driving my BRZ, so it's totally fine, actually.
Okay. Speaking of fun little two-seater or should-be two-seater cars, what have you been driving, Miss Nicole?
Despite my typing Volkswagen Miata in the show notes, I am not driving that. That is not a vehicle. I am driving the Mazda Miata, or the MX-5. They like to call it now, right? You don't call it a Miata, isn't that the thing?
It'll always be Miata.
It's always going to be Miata, and it's a weird decision to
I know.
put
I'm like, it's such a no name. It would be like saying, no, I'm not going to call it Mustang anymore. We're going to call it like something. No, it's Mustang's a Mustang, and people know the name. So anyway, I'm driving the Mazda Miata. I had that. It was kind of a crazy week because we also had the New England Motor Press had their Ragtop Ramble this week. So I drove that and drove other things and drove back and forth, and then I'm in car number 4 for the week. So it's been crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's why I don't have no cars, and Nicole has. She's picking up the slack.
Well, speaking of the Ragtop Ramble,
yes.
I was looking at the pictures that you were posting on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
None of the cars there were actually ragtops.
Well, some of them were ragtops. The problem with the whole Ragtop Ramble concept is that there are not a lot of convertible cars out there, and the OEMs want to participate, and we like that. So it's the idea is if you have a ragtop, send it. But if you don't have one,
send whatever you got.
Send what you got that you think will be fun for all of us to drive. So I mean, like we had, Ram 1500s, we had Fords, we had a little bit of everything, but
G-Wagons.
Yeah.
G-Wagon. Okay, so the Ram 1500, did you just put people in the back and boom, ragtop?
Yeah, exactly. Technically,
it's the
biggest ragtop of them all.
If you're sitting in the bed.
So the idea is,
well, if you have the big panoramic sunroof, you open that up. It's sort of kind of like a ragtop.
Kind of like a ragtop. Yeah, but with less wind in your hair. So I have the Miata, which actually, technically not a ragtop, but it's
you had the RF.
Yeah, I have the RF.
The RF?
Oh my God, the RF. If you could see the face that Sam just gave me, like, what kind of bastard child are you driving this week?
You should just got a BRZ. If you're getting the RF, just get the BRZ.
But it was so fun. So I had that to drive around for just like a very short time at the house, at home. Before then, I went on the Ramble and drove other cars, and then have yet a third car in my drive, and a fourth car in my driveway because I have to do a drive program on Sunday from my house to where I'm going. So I've driven the Miata plenty of times, and it's kind of funny. I feel like reviewing the Miata. You either he even put RF in the show notes just to make sure.
It's just for my reference when I do the notes and when I publish later.
It has just appeared as we're talking. So it's the Miata is a little 2-seater convertible. It is tiny. I mean, Sam, I don't even know how you get into that. It is small. It is small. It is small. My husband at 6'3" was like, oh dear God, how do I get into this?
Well, I drove, the last time I drove an RF was in May at the Mama Spring Rally at Road America, and they had an RF there as one of the cars that we could drive on the track.
Okay.
And the downside is, that on the track we have to wear a helmet. Because it was a rainy day, we couldn't drive the RF with the top open. So I got in this thing, and it's like I'm kind of sitting there with my head cocked to one side, to fit. I pulled the seat as far forward as I could and reclined it as much as I could, so my knees were up around the steering wheel, and it was probably the first non-good Miata experience I've ever had in my life. So if you plan to do track days with a Miata RF, you want to make sure that you're sufficiently or have sufficiently little physical stature that you'll actually fit. Because
it's a tight car.
Either that, or you'll need to take the seat out and get some different brackets, so you can actually lower the seat in the chassis, and so you can fit. It is definitely a two-seater for not tall people, but it is very fun. I mean, it has a great little manual transmission. It is so much fun to drive. The upside to having the RF that Sam apparently hates is I don't hate it. It's just not good with a helmet with the top closed.
I don't
know. The eye roll when I said it was the hard top was like,
I always prefer the soft top.
Yes.
It is a Miata. That's the whole
Miata.
weird thing. When I see someone who bought the RF, I'm like, really? That's what?
You know what? It was funny today. I literally
fine.
saw someone who bought one here. Today, one coming toward me in the same color and everything. I was like, why'd you do that? I wanted to ask him nothing. Why did you choose that? Why was that your choice? I just got out of that. Why did you choose that? So I feel
to give you a point of reference, my feelings when it comes to Miatas, the license plate on my Miata is drive open.
Okay.
So,
all right, yeah. So, and as I'm picking on it kind of a lot, I actually love the car. It's very fun to drive. It has a very limited use case. If you live in the Northeast, it's going to be impossible to utilize the open top situation or even drive it, I think, on the streets a good portion of the year because it's a sporty low car. It is not designed for something where there's a snow that you can have to drive through because
I have to disagree with that opinion.
Can you really drive through deep snow in this?
Well, not deep snow, but you can certainly drive it with winter tires on there. You can absolutely drive a Miata year round. Oh,
well, I mean, you can on the snow with the winter tires, but I always think about living in the north, and you live in Michigan, so you can it's not just a matter of snow on the road. It's how deep is the snow on the road, and how deep is the snow as the roads cross over as you're at an intersection where you have those sort of berms of snow from the plows where suddenly there's, a foot and a half of snow
the key here is you have to remember that the Miata is a momentum car. It's all about the momentum because it's not exceptionally powerful. So if you're driving it on a track or an autocross, you want to do things so you maintain your momentum. The same thing is true when you're driving it in snow. As long as the snow is not more than about 4 inches deep, you're good.
Well, see, 4 inches deep is not very much snow. We very often have more than 4 inches of snow at any given moment. So I would fear for its safety, not the safety of just the poor car would get destroyed the first time it met a snowbank full of ice that I tried to drive through, getting out of the grocery store parking lot. I destroy the front end. But it's really fun. It's really cute. It is. I love that and I don't know how many cars do this. Is it because of the whole convertible thing that everything comes through the speakers in your head? Everything was in the headrest. So when I made a phone call, it's not speakers in the car, it's the speakers in the headrest. So you can very clearly hear everyone, which is kind of cool. I like that. I think they should all kind of do that, honestly.
Yeah, actually, the Miata was one of the first cars to ever have headrest speakers like that. And in the early years, they were optional.
Yeah.
And mine came from the factory without those, but you can unzip the top part of the seat. Yeah. And if you open it up, you can see in the foam, there's actually cutouts for the speakers.
Oh, no.
And so
way.
I installed the headrest speakers in mine and ran them to the stereo. Because when you are driving with the top down, as you should in such a car,
as we've established,
having the audio right behind your head makes it much easier to hear.
Yeah, it was really cool. I thought that was neat, and it's I don't know what other cars do that right now, but it was just so perfect. I'm like, this is great. Even if you have the top up, it's loud. Convertibles aren't quiet, so to have that right at your ears instead of filling the tiny little cabin, I thought it was pretty neat. Very fun to drive. Just cute, makes you smile when you see it. Happy car. I liked it. It's, the thing is if you're buying something like Miata, you're committing to the idea that you're cool with the fact that it's small. It's for two people. The cup holders are impossible. It's a little, can be a little bit loud, but like, man, for the days you can drop that top and you can enjoy the sun, worth it. Worth it. So worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I am a fan, despite picking on it. I am a fan of the Miata.
Well, the Miata RF is by no means a bad car. It is just the least great Miata.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
That's definitely what it is.
Well said. Well said, Sam. It's the least great Miata. And that was the only, we did not have any soft top Miatas at the Ramble. But I brought it down there. And then I had two more cars that I got to drive that were fantastic.
Anything you want to tell us about, or you want to save those?
I can save it for later. I can tell you about it now. What would you like?
Well, let's save it for later.
Okay.
All right. Well, since Robbie didn't have anything to drive this week, I had two. And they were, really, they were basically the same car. They both had four wheels, an internal combustion engine, a step ratio transmission. They had four doors and a hatchback. So, they were basically the same, right?
Totally the same. I'm looking at the description. Nothing different between these two vehicles, guys.
They're both 2022 model year cars. Toyota Corolla Hatchback and Maserati Levante Trofeo.
Yeah, totally the same.
Yeah, exactly absolutely the same. Which one do you want to hear about first?
The Toyota Corolla.
I was going to say, let's hear about the Corolla first.
Okay. So the Corolla, this is the hatchback version of the Corolla, which is quite a bit more sporty looking than the sedan, and it's actually quite fun to drive. This is definitely of the better to drive a slow car fast variety. This is not the Corolla GR by any stretch of the imagination. It is not exceptionally quick. And it's also not exceptionally large, but it's more than adequate. It's got a 2-liter 4-cylinder naturally aspirated engine with let me find it here. I think it's about 168 horsepower, 168 horsepower, and 151 foot-pounds of torque, which peaks at 4,800 RPM. So not a whole lot of low-end torque in this thing. But it's also relatively lightweight. So, and because you have a manual transmission, it's pretty easy to chirp the front tires, get the front tires going. And manual transmission, very nice, 6-speed. It's the transmission. This is by no means like a GTI or a Civic Si in terms of the quality of the transmission. It's got relatively long throws to it. It's a fairly long shift lever, but it's still a manual, and that forgives a lot of other issues. So if you're looking for something that's reasonably enjoyable to drive, not too expensive, you can get the hatchback, the Corolla hatchback, starting at about $21,500, which puts it at the low end of what's available now in terms of new cars, assuming you can find one. The one I had was an XSE, which is the higher trim level, and it came out to a grand total of where is it here? $25,954 delivered. Since I was taking full advantage of the manual transmission and kind of thrashing it around a little bit, I didn't quite hit the EPA label numbers for it. It's rated at 28 miles per gallon city, 36 highway, 31 combined. I got about 28 in all-around driving, including a fair bit of highway driving. If I had been a little more tame with it, I could have gotten into the low 30s pretty easily. But this is I like the paint on this one, the color combination. It was the two-tone that Toyota offers on this, with the black roof, and then this kind of lighter bright blue lower, so everything from the belt line down is blue.
I like that. I've seen what you're talking about. Yeah. I think it looks good. I like the two-tone too. It looks good.
Yeah, it's a sharp combination. One of the this is a compact hatchback, but while it is nominally in the same class as cars like the Honda Civic hatchback, it's actually a fair bit smaller. It's about 6 inches shorter. And when you look at it in profile, you can see that the rear end is much shorter than on the Civic hatchback, for example. So it's got a shorter wheelbase by several inches, and then basically there's very little rear overhang, which from a design standpoint actually looks pretty good. But if you get it with the optional spare tire, you can get it with a tire inflator kit, so no spare tire. But I would not recommend that in general if you can avoid it. If you get it with the inflator kit, then the rear cargo floor is several inches lower. If you get it with the spare tire, the rear cargo floor is basically flush with the bottom of the tailgate, which makes loading fairly easy. But it also means that the cargo area is fairly shallow. It's only 18 cubic feet, which is not it's not bad, but compared to the Civic has about almost 26 cubic feet of cargo area behind the seats. So definitely have a lot less cargo area in this one than you would with the Honda, or if you had a GTI or something like that, which is also a little bit bigger. So overall, genuinely nice car to drive. It's not, like I say, it's not as sharp as a GTI or a Civic Si, or a Civic Hatch Sport, Sport trim, but it is, it's more than adequate, and it's very reasonably priced. I traded that one back to Drive Shop for this other hatchback, which is a little bit larger, a little bit more powerful.
A scooch? Would you say a scooch larger?
A scooch larger, yes.
Right.
And also just a scooch more expensive. So, in fact, the Maserati Levante Trofeo that I had that they sent over for me, one of the options on here, there was not a whole lot of options, but one of the options on this car was a special paint job that you can order.
Oh, God.
Take a wild guess how much the paint option was.
Oh, God.
It's up to you, Nicole. He already told me.
He already told you. So I was actually talking about this yesterday, and I was in a car where the paint was like, it was this crazy option. I don't know, on a Maserati, $6,000?
Keep going.
No.
This is the Fury Series Corsa paint in Rosso Magma, so volcanic red, basically.
$10,000?
$17,000.
Oh my God, that's a car!
Just
oh
for
my
the paint.
17 grand for paint. That better be the best GD paint you've ever seen in your entire life.
It's fabulous. I mean, it's this metallic red. And I talked to the Maserati PR guy after I looked at this order sheet, and I said, "Am I reading this correctly?" He said, "Yeah, this is a special option, special order paint."
Oh my!
They
17?
It's hand sprayed. They don't run it through the standard.
Oh well, then it's worth the 17.
They do each coat. There's 3 base coats of the red. They do each coat. They buff it, polish it, and everything, and then prep it for the next coat. So they do spray three coats, and then the clear coat is a tinted clear coat. And when you look at it, I mean, it looks really like a really deep finish on there.
Yeah.
So it does look really good. Now,
$17,000 good?
Yeah, but it's made out of volcanoes.
Yeah.
Actual volcanoes were sacrificed during the making of this paint.
But we've been sacrificing far too much into volcanoes. We're
just going to sacrifice. Yeah. Now we're taking it back, and we're
taking it back.
Paint.
Take that, volcanoes.
I was giving my daughter a ride somewhere earlier today before they dropped it off, and we drove past. Somebody had a Mazda CX-30 in the driveway in Soul Crystal Red, and I'm looking
really
at that,
pretty.
and while the paint on this Maserati was absolutely fabulous, I don't think it was as good as Soul Crystal Red.
Wow.
To be honest, I gotta be
Really?
brutally honest.
The Mazda Red, though, is really nice.
I mean, the Mazda
It
Red
is.
is like the best red that you can get. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's hard to beat that. But I would, for $17,000, they better beat it.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about like how the color itself. The red on the Mazda is just The
beautiful.
workmanship that went into the Maserati, though. I mean, you have to get a bunch.
No,
of
I mean, I
Italian
totally understand.
people.
I mean, there's a lot of labor that went into putting this paint on there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and when you consider the craftspeople that are working on this, it is. I would fully expect it to be expensive, but moving past the paint, this is a mid-size 2-row SUV. The Trofeo is the top trim level for the Levante. They have GT and a couple of other trims. The base, the GT starts. It has a 3-liter V6 as well as does one of the other trim levels. This has a twin turbocharged 3.8-liter V8, and when you open the hood, you look at it, and yes, this is an Italian V8, a high-performance Italian V8. When you look at it, it's got the red crackle finish on the valve covers and the intake plenum, just like a Ferrari engine, like you would expect. As glorious as this engine looks, they weren't going to do the kind of, the thing you typically find on almost all new vehicles, where you open the hood and you just see this massive piece of plastic that covers everything that's underneath it.
It's so horrible.
It's like they clearly want to show off this engine. And in the Trofeo, it's rated at 580 horsepower, at least for the U.S. market. Outside of North America, it's 590 horsepower. I'm not sure why we get less, but this engine, especially when you put it in Corsa Sport mode, the sound of this thing is just magnificent. It's not like a small block Chevy, or a Ford Coyote V8. It's a very different kind of sound, and it sounds like what you would get, from a Ferrari V8, for example.
Yeah.
This is not a Ferrari engine, but it was, I think, Ferrari assisted in the design and development of this engine. And so it's got that sound. It's not a flat plane crank. So it's only got a maximum RPM of about 7,300 RPM. But it still sounds fantastic. This is a 2.5-ton vehicle. It weighs just over 5,000 pounds. So this is not a sports car by any stretch of the imagination. It does go 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, 3.9, 4 seconds, and it has a top speed of 187 miles per hour.
Because why not?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what SUVs are for going 187
everyone
miles
should be
an hour.
doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny, after driving the e-tron GT last week, this does not feel as quick, even though it's got more power, because it does, even with similar levels of power, what you get from an electric propulsion system is that instantaneous response when you step on it. And this, because it's a turbocharged engine, and it's not necessarily tuned for, at best, for the maximum low end torque. It has decent low end torque, but it just is not the same kind of response you get from an EV. And so, even though this is a very fast vehicle, it doesn't necessarily, you get spoiled driving an EV, with the way it feels, as opposed to, the hard numbers. And so it doesn't feel quite as quick as it is, which is actually probably for the best anyway. You don't necessarily want to be driving a 2.5-ton SUV that fast. But you can if you want to. It's got the ZF 8-speed transmission, lovely interior. This one had the carbon fiber package, so you've got the shift paddles on the back of the steering wheel they're the style that you find on some high performance vehicles, especially high performance Italian vehicles, where they're the big long paddles that are fixed on the steering column rather than right on the back of the steering wheel. They're done in carbon fiber trim all around, lovely, beautiful soft leather everywhere, Alcantara headliner, the all glass moonroof, all that kind of stuff. It's quite roomy in the back seat as well, lots of cargo space in the back. it was actually surprisingly efficient. I was expecting this thing to be just a complete gas hog. And while this is no Miata, or Prius in terms of its fuel efficiency, on a trip up to Traverse City, Michigan on Monday, it averaged about almost 21 miles per gallon. And, over the course of the last 4 days, I averaged about, including some around town driving, averaged about just shy of 19 miles per gallon. With, for a 2.5-ton SUV with 580 horsepower, that's not too shabby.
From a big beefy V8 with all-wheel drive, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. One thing that I found particularly amusing when I was looking around, when I was sitting, looking at the drive mode buttons next to the shifter, one of the modes is off-road mode, which
Did you know?
it takes the air springs and lifts it up a couple of inches. And I got out and looked at it, and I've got pictures of it, in off-road mode, and you can see it's definitely riding a little bit higher when it's in off-road mode. And it even has hill descent control, to help you when you're going down a hill to maintain your speed, so you're don't have to ride the brakes too much. But this thing is riding on 295, 30, 22, and 22-inch tires, which I'm just thinking, who's going to take this thing off-road on those tires? This is insane.
This is for when you're visiting the friend who has the estate, the horse estate, and when you get there, it's like a little dirt road, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to ruin my $17,000 paint job. Let me lift it up a little bit, so while I'm driving, there's less of a chance of the gravel smacking up my very expensive paint job.
Yeah, because you definitely don't want to be dragging that paint job over some boulders on the Rubicon Trail.
No, it's definitely
So, bottom line, the total price tag on this thing came to $173,000. Or sorry, $173,550. So this is not inexpensive.
A little bit more than that Corolla.
Just slightly more than the Corolla. Yeah,
Scooch.
but I mean, close. I mean, I think people would be cross-shopping these.
If you're a billionaire, those are the exact same price as far as I'm concerned.
They might as well be. Yes.
Yeah, they might as well be the same price. No difference between the two.
So yeah, I mean, it was comfortable to drive. I spent multiple hours, driving back and forth between Traverse City and my home this week. Did not feel at all fatigued, even though there was no massaging seats for $173,550. No massaging seats, but they were very comfortable, very supportive seats.
All right, then.
Did not feel at all fatigued. It felt great. Oh, and unlike some fancy Italian cars of the past, there was no funky infotainment system. It was just a standard Stellantis Uconnect 5 infotainment system. So everything just worked. I plugged in my phone. Android Auto popped up. It was all good.
All works. That's one of the selling points of the Lamborghini Urus is it just has a reskinned version of Audi's MMI.
Maserati did not even reskin it. It was just straight up Uconnect 5. Same thing you would find in a Chrysler Pacifica or a Jeep Compass.
Yep. That's because they spend too much time trying to make the paint look pretty.
Yeah, just put the thing in. That's not our thing.
There was a fancy analog clock above the touchscreen.
Ooh.
But the touchscreen, it just worked.
Just give them the thing that it works. People want it to work.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to care.
Yep. All right. Was there something you wanted to add to that?
Me?
No. Robbie.
Oh.
When I was getting into Uconnect.
Oh, Uconnect's fine.
Yeah.
I'm still sad about the VW Miata though.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. I set you up some pretty hefty expectations for the 2 seconds that my brain typed VW Miata. I went, wait, no, bloop, Mazda. I mean, for that half a second, it was in the show notes.
An MEB powered Miata that changes my entire life.
Your whole life.
My
would be
my entire car buying plan right now would be completely altered.
Like
by
everything
an
else.
MEB Miata. Yeah, everything. Ioniq 5. No. ID Buzz. No. I'm just getting the MEB Miata, and we'll just keep the Kona electric.
That's it. That's all you want. Your life is done. That's all you
Sell
need.
the BRZ. This is done. That's everything.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Well, as long as we're talking about MEB, let's talk about the 2023 VW ID4.
Okay, let's.
The ID4s for the North American market, starting with the 2023 models, will no longer be sourced from Germany. They'll be built in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Chattanooga.
After they spent $800 million to update it, they're building the ID4 there now.
Cool.
And it has a version with an available lower price, less range, but a bigger touchscreen as standard equipment.
That's what all the people want.
Yeah, exactly.
Bigger touchscreen. That's the
I
priority.
think we're approaching the point where people who have had electric cars, like this is their second or third electric car, and they're thinking, you know what, I don't need 400 miles. 200 miles is probably fine.
You could be right. Do you think that many people are on their second EV?
I don't think it's a lot of people.
Not California. Like
no.
California, I think that's probably much more likely. But I wonder if the rest of us.
I think the rest of the people that own Teslas are on their
That's
second
true.
or third or fourth
That's
Tesla.
true. No, you're 100% right. I didn't think of that. Most Tesla people.
And I think a lot of Model S people, especially in the Bay Area, they're not getting new model. They're getting Taycans. The Taycan has less EPA rated range, but I think they're like, I didn't really know. It's fine.
and the reality is the real world range is actually comparable to the real world range of the Model S. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think the two what are they saying? It's a 208 miles for the 62 kilowatt hour battery. That's probably going to be closer to like 220. The way Volkswagen does their EPA it's a big word that I can't remember. Certification. There's another thing that they have to do. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they always take the worst number. Is what it comes down to. Volkswagen Group as a whole, when it comes to their EPA numbers, are like, what's the numbers we can have? Yeah, take the worst one, We want the worst one, and then it just, so when the people drive it, they're like, oh, I'm getting better than what I thought.
They're all pleasantly surprised. I exceeded the expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
So the new base ID4, which is creatively called the ID4 Standard,
Wow.
has a sticker
Hope no one
price of-
hurt themselves thinking up that name. Okay.
Hey, at least it tells you what it is.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, no,
What'd you get? Standard. Oh, all right, cool.
no nonsense with trying to figure out what Gran Turismo means, or Pro. What is an ID4 Pro? Yeah.
You're a professional
You know what?
driver.
Because you don't want who would want the ID4 Amateur, which makes you feel like there should be that one out there. I'm like, I want the one that knows what it's doing.
He knows. He knows.
So it starts at $37,495, and of course VW is still eligible for $7,500 tax credit, and it's now looking like the as we're recording this on Friday afternoon,
Whatever the bill is called now.
Yeah, the Inflation Reduction Act.
It
Will
changes.
probably do anything but. That looks like they've got enough people on board, and it's going to get voted on tomorrow. So perhaps by next week it will be law. And with this one, as we talked about last time, the changes to the incentive programs with that new bill mean that only vehicles that are built in North America would be eligible for incentives. And they also have to have a certain percentage of domestic content in the battery. And one of the other changes, in addition to building the ID4 here in Tennessee, they are also now sourcing the batteries from the SK plant in Georgia.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So no more batteries, no more LG batteries from Europe. They're getting SK batteries from Georgia. In in both battery sizes, they have the 62 and the 88 kilowatt hour battery for the Pros, and the 12-inch infotainment screen that was optional before. The 10-inch was standard, 12-inch was optional. That's down just standard across the board on all trim levels. So
Massive
everybody gets
screen.
12 inches.
Everyone gets. So overall, I know they fixed the infotainment system according to y'all. I haven't actually driven the ID4 since that's happened, but there is one thing that they did not change that they should have, and that is the rear windows. They still have the little rear button to use the same. Yeah, I downloaded the images. I enlarged and enhanced, and it's still, when you're the driver, you still only have two buttons or two levers to open and close the windows. And if you want to do the rear windows, you have to hit a button. And then do the rear windows.
As we talked, I think we talked about this last time, or maybe I was talking to somebody else about it. But I think part of their future product plan is that that extra button to enable the rear windows will become a subscription. So you'll have to pay.
Oh, you want to roll up and down those rear windows?
$5 or $10 a month to be able to use the rear windows. So if you don't pay for the subscription, that rear window button just becomes inactive.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, you want to roll up and down those rear windows while you're driving? Well, Mr. Rockefeller. Let me.
Just hit this accept button on the touchscreen, and we will immediately start charging your credit
enable your
card.
windows.
I downloaded. I was like, all right, hold on, let me see. What are they doing? And I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, Volkswagen. Come on.
Come on.
Because you're only saving one button, really. You're saving one
I know.
thing.
I know.
What I mean?
It's not.
You're adding more.
You're adding complexity. You're making it more difficult for people to figure out what to do. There's more steps involved, and you're saving one button.
And you're not.
One button. That one button, though. A whole button.
Oh wow! What are you gonna do?
And I talked to Volkswagen. I just wanted to confirm, if the 62 kilowatt hour battery, if they were just software locking the big battery to 62 kilowatt hours, or if they were actually just installing fewer modules in it, and it is the latter. So there are actually physically fewer modules in that battery pack to make the smaller capacity. So it'll be lighter. So it actually, and because it still has the same 201 horsepower rear axle motor, it might actually be slightly quicker than the extended range rear-wheel drive version.
It's the promise of MEB. Modular.
Yeah.
You're like, I always pull some modules out.
That's what the M stands for, is modular.
It's right there.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's the modular MEB. It's like when you say ATM machine.
What else they got here? Oh, they've also added plug-and charge functionality as standard
Cool.
on the ID4s for 23, which in theory at least means that you should be able to go to an Electrify America station, plug it in, and it should just automatically start charging and bill you as needed. Assuming that your local EA station is actually functional, it might even work.
I was going to say, you can just plug in. Can you now? Can you
They
really?
were doing so well for a few months, and then it just like all fell apart again.
I know.
There's probably like an
Absolutely.
update that went out and broke everything. They're like, oh man.
All right. What else we got here? Let's stick with BMW or with BMW with VW for a minute. Too many letters. So a couple of months ago, Innoviz, which is an Israeli lidar startup, made a big announcement. Their first production contract was with BMW to supply lidar for BMW for their Level 3 partial automation system that may or may not sometime come out in 2023. It was supposed to come out in 2021 and then 22. It may come out next year. Anyway. Innoviz announced their next generation lidar sensor, which is going to be considerably cheaper. It's supposed to be under $500. And in May of this year, they announced they had gotten a design win from a major manufacturer worth $4 billion, which, assuming that their sensors are in fact $500 or less, it would mean 8 million lidar sensors.
Wow.
They announced this week that that customer for those lidars is Volkswagen Cariad, which is VW's software division that's making all their driver assist and automated driving stuff going forward for all the VW Group brands. And this is supposed to launch in 2025, but
I like how this is supposed to. You sound so confident.
well, the reason why I'm not as confident as I once was
Yes.
is, we didn't talk about this last time, but Herbert Diess, the now former CEO of Volkswagen Group,
Yes.
he was fired. And apparently one of the main reasons why he was fired was because of chaos at Cariad, which is doing all the software for all the VW Group vehicles. They're not just doing ADAS, they're doing the infotainment and all the software for all the cars. And apparently things are not going so well at Cariad. And a lot of programs are falling behind schedule because of the software team there. So it might launch in 2025.
Maybe.
Maybe 26, maybe 27.
Who knows?
I did a thing with Zoox a few weeks back, a week back, 2 weeks. I don't know. I did a thing with Zoox. They're making like those ride hail, little autonomous,
little
ride-hailing-
robo-taxis.
Yeah, little robo taxis. They're making little robo taxis. And the entire time I was there talking to him, talking to the founder, and talking to the team, and we're like, well, what's the timeline? They're like, we don't really want to talk about timeline. They're like, it's close, but we don't want to talk about timeline. And to be honest, if you're working with anything that has anything to do with automation at all, or really just software, to be honest, don't give a timeline. Just don't, because we can all remember when Ford's when Mark Fields came up and like, we're gonna have robo taxis at Ford's in 2019. And we're like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Okay, sure.
But
It's 2022.
but other people give timelines and miss them and still have companies that are worth $900 billion.
Well, I mean, are they still worth that much? I mean, there's been a big hit to that. It's been
Well,
a
it
big
went
hit
back
to,
up in the last couple of weeks.
All right.
It was back up over $900 a share the other day. And we're talking about Tesla here.
We're talking about Tesla. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know how much Tesla's
It
worth.
was down 6.5% today after they had their annual meeting yesterday.
Oof.
Back down to 864.
Yeah. So I think there's a
Still a $900 billion market cap.
it's still a company that's worth more than it should be, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Yes, should Tesla be worth a lot of money? Yeah. should Tesla be worth this much? Oh God, no. oh heavens, no. But the stock market is not the economy. The stock market a lot of times doesn't deal with reality. There's a lot of things about the stock market.
But those stock prices are, Tesla's stock price in particular is in large part based on the promises that Musk has made about, self-driving and robo-taxis and all the revenue that they're going to generate from the, 20 million robo-taxis.
People just, at some point, I think folks, they buy in. And once you've bought in and you've put so much money in, you're not going to back off. You're not going to be like, well, maybe he's right. No, it's going to happen because you have so much money invested. You can't. I have so much money invested in this thing. There's no way. These Beanie Babies are going to be worth millions again. I swear. I spent $500 on a bear in 1990 whatever. I swear it's going to be worth money again. For the love of God,
sunk cost theory, huh?
Please let it be worth money again.
or that crypto that you bought, those NFTs.
Oh, that's a tough.
Oh God! Wow, that was a rough market.
One. Yeah, but you look at it I think when you're a journalist and you look at things, you're like, all right, this doesn't make any sense. But the average person doesn't jump in and doesn't have the context for all this stuff that's happening, and B, doesn't jump in and just start researching stuff for fun, which is a weird thing that journalists do. I don't cover this, but I'm going to research the hell out of it. And then you're like, yeah, this isn't a good idea. But if we had just said, you know what, I'm going to sell one NFT for $1 million and then walk away, we'd all be doing better. So we're not exactly geniuses, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, speaking of NFTs, I got a PR pitch from somebody today, pitching the CEO of some company. He was head of NFTs at a company that shall remain unnamed. Says he'd be a great guest on Forbes, Wheel Bearings, or Guidehouse Insights to discuss insight on breaking NFT news and its implications. And I just responded back and said, look, NFTs are a huge scam, and I'm not going to give them any oxygen. No, thank you.
Yes. Thanks, but no. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're so funny. Oh.
And anyway.
If you're an artist that's made a lot of money off of NFTs, I'm very proud of you. But also, people should just be buying art. It shouldn't have to be an NFT in order for people to buy art. You can buy prints. Here's print. Well, you can't see it. I'm pointing at pointing at things on an audio podcast of artwork
we can see it,
that I've bought from my friends.
He's pointing at a real thing, people. It's real.
You guys can't even see it. That's the thing. I'm pointing at a painting that my friend did that you guys can't even see. I gave him money for a print of his painting. Just do that. Just buy art.
Yes, buy a print of a painting or a photograph, or buy a sculpture or something. Buy something physical. Yes.
Yeah, buy something nice from
somebody.
Buy a
physical object and put it in your abode. Wherever you live.
Yeah.
And sit there and enjoy it and show it to your friends when they come over.
There you go.
All right. I think we were talking a little bit about automation, so let's stick with that theme for a minute before we get on to the last story. GM this week announced that they were more than doubling the roads where Super Cruise works. And for those who don't remember, Super Cruise is GM's hands-free driver assist system that is geofenced to only work on specific roads that GM has mapped, and they feel that the system can operate safely on. When they first launched it in 2017, it was about 130,000 miles of roads. They eventually grew that to 200,000 miles of roads, and originally it was just divided highways, limited access divided highways. And the most recent upgrade, it actually opened it up to some divided trunk roads. So like rural highways that are still divided. Now they're going from 200 to over 400,000 miles of roads. And the system will apparently be able to work on 2-lane roads like Route 66, the Pacific Coast Highway, the Trans-Canada Highway.
Pacific Coast Highway is that's a bonkers. I think a Pacific Coast Highway in LA, okay, I can see that. Pacific Coast Highway in Northern California.
Yeah, I was just there a couple of weeks ago. I don't know that Super Cruise. I would be interested to see how well Super Cruise works on there.
Yeah.
That could be a very interesting experience. I know that The first time I try it, I will be keeping my hands very close to that steering wheel.
Hovering right over the wheel.
Absolutely. One of the things they did say on the call for that is that because you've got these rural 2-lane roads, some of the things that they will disable when you're on those kinds of roads, and because they know what the road is, because they've got high definition maps, they can turn certain features on or off based on what road you're driving on. So if you're on a 2-lane road, it won't do auto lane change or lane change on demand. You'll have to, if you want to pull out to pass somebody, you'll have to do that manually. You're responsible for that. Or if you're coming up to a traffic signal or a stop sign, it knows where those are because they're on the map, and it's also got the cameras. And so as you're approaching those, it will start flashing the light bar red, and it'll say, "Hey, put your hands back on the wheel," and you'll have to take control again. So it's not going to automatically try to respond to red lights, recognize red lights or stop signs, and bring the car to a stop. If you don't respond, then it will bring the car to a stop anyway. But it will ask you to take control back in those situations. So that's going to be coming out on new build vehicles this fall, and then sometime in the fourth quarter they will start pushing out an OTA update to all the vehicles that have Super Cruise on them. By the end of the year, all those vehicles should be able to operate with Super Cruise in many more places.
Cool.
Nifty. I love Super Cruise, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Cruise-tastic.
All right. One last story before we get to Q&A. Toyota.
Toyota
is having a rough start with EVs.
Wah, wah.
They not long after they started selling the BZ4X and also Subaru selling the Solterra, they had a recall for them and told people to stop driving the cars because wheels could fall off.
I mean, really, like, the reason the wheels could fall off, like, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be some technical thing that involves engineering and numbers and math, but the wheels could fall off.
Which is that's a saying. Oh, the wheels fell off on this situation. Literally, the wheels are falling off.
Literally falling off. Like, no, we're not kidding. Actual wheels falling off.
This seems like it should be a fairly straightforward thing to fix. It's like,
bolts and whatnot.
Yeah, just you don't even have to have people bring the car to a dealership. They haven't sold that many of them. Just send a technician out with a torque wrench.
Is this literally what it is, that they're not torqued on well enough? Does it say?
I don't know. They haven't said. They have not said what the problem is. Why they're
nuts
falling.
or wait, I'm reading this story from CNN, and it says because nuts or bolts could loosen and wheels or axles can become disconnected.
Like there's some sort of vibration system that's pulling the nuts off if you do like sharp turns and acceleration. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know.
It's an EV. There's no what's going to vibrate.
I don't know. This is a very weird. This whole thing is just really weird and strange. Don't drive your car that you just bought from us.
Immediately don't drive it because the bolts that hold the wheels can loosen even after a relatively small number of miles, allowing the wheels to detach. Just drive it along. Whoa, who lost a wheel? Wait, that was me in my brand new EV. Toyota doesn't know yet how to fix the issue?
This is Toyota's whole deal
weird.
Is like we're Toyota. We build cars that last for millions of miles. Like Top Gear took one of their trucks, stuck it in a building, blew up the building, and the truck still started. And they're just like, we don't know. The wheels fall off, man. I don't know. It's EVs. EVs are crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, they bought back a truck from a customer, a Tundra from a customer that had driven it a million miles.
Yeah.
Just so they could study it and figure out what did we do right on this thing that made it last so long, so they could make sure that they incorporated all that into the new Tundra.
Well, they didn't incorporate it into the BZ4X, I can tell you that.
Apparently not.
You drive it, it's a 12-mile car. You drive it 12 miles, and then you just...
And that's it. So apparently the Subaru is only off the hook with the Solterra because they haven't delivered any yet.
Oh, okay.
So that's according to a statement from spokesperson Jessica Tillman. She said in an email. So they haven't delivered them to anybody yet. So that's why we haven't heard the recall because it's not out there yet.
So apparently Toyota is offering to buy back cars from some customers, until they fix this problem.
Can you imagine? They don't know what's wrong. It's not even like we're going to just take a little time. We got to get you this part. Here's your loaner. It's like, we don't know. Park your car.
I mean,
all goes. I'm sorry.
I mean, maybe it's a problem with the studs or I don't know if they have studs and lug nuts or bolts holding the wheels on this one.
It says bolts in this story.
Okay. So maybe the problem, is the bolts themselves are defective and they might actually be stretching. So it might be a metallurgical problem with the bolts.
We sourced our bolts from a recycling center down the street. It turns out recycled Pepsi cans are not great for cars.
They don't work. Who knew?
This goes back to my whole theory that Toyota built this car the way a sullen teenager is told to clean their room. They're like, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to do a good job.
Just shove everything in the closet.
If I have to, I'll do it. Fine, whatever.
We made the RAV. We made the Prius. Why are you guys hassling us? I feel like there's a lot of we made hybrids cool.
Yeah.
Leave us alone.
We made more hybrids than everybody else put together.
Yeah. We have the RAV4 Prime. Come on. Fine.
But wheels are okay. So the story also says only 260 BZ4Xs have been delivered so far.
So it's not like a lot of people.
It's 260 in the grand scheme is a very small number of people. So I can see why they'd say this doesn't say anything about the buyback. It just says they'll give you a loaner.
It's funny though, of the 260, it's a big enough problem. They're like, oh,
right,
only
it's not
260 on the road.
Right.
Are 200?
And they already found this problem.
Right. Yeah, because it's enough of them that they're like, oh crud, everybody stop.
Oh dear. Oh man, what should we do about that? I don't know. Buy them back, I guess. Just throw some money at it. Throw money at the problem.
They're not even going to drive it. Toyota dealers will pick up customers' BZ4Xs, bring them to the dealership, and provide a free loaner. They're not even going to don't even drive it to your dealership. Get out of that car.
We'll send a flatbed.
We'll send a flatbed. This is serious. I mean, seriously, it must be an issue that they're like crud.
What are they giving them as loaners? Because they make enough cars.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly. They need to find two. Yeah, what are you getting for a loaner when there's no vehicles out there at all?
They're all just looking around.
I was just going back through my notes from when we were at the Toyota headquarters in June.
Yeah.
And Bob Carter was talking about sales and their inventories, and this was right at the end of May, and he was talking about for May, they were expecting to have between 173 and 174,000 sales for May, and at that point, they had 12,600 cars in inventory, which is like 2 days' supply.
Nothing.
And their sales, Toyota sales, were down quite a bit in July, simply because they could not get enough vehicles. They did not. Mm-hmm. They had nothing to sell, and so I don't know. Maybe they'll go buy some used cars or something to go down to the local Mannheim auction and buy a couple hundred cars and give those as loaners.
They have the courtesy vehicles, and I'm assuming I don't know how many each dealer has, maybe 2, maybe 3, but a lot of these are probably sold in California. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Yeah. So
they're sort of concentrated in one area. It's not spread out over the whole
I'm assuming half of them were probably sold by Toyota SF.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh no, the Toyota SF, general manager's looking around. He's like,
cars.
What do we got? What do we got? We have this. There's a Corolla in for a new tire. Tim, give him that. Give him that.
Somebody just traded in a 1990 Camry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's clean that up and give it to him.
Let's put some.
It's gonna be all these random used Toyotas.
What's going on?
All right.
Poor Toyota. We're sorry, Toyota, but this is kind of funny in its own little way.
Toyota's going to be fine. They can't sell. They can't make enough cars to sell.
I know. They're selling so many cars they can't even make enough to sell.
They survived the sudden acceleration recall 12 years ago.
Which is more significant than wheels.
It's way worse. That
was many millions of cars.
Yeah. This is 260. Easy peasy.
I would like Toyota to just take a second and be like, maybe we should just do this ourselves. Let's just do a really good job and make a really good EV. Let's look at what we're doing, and then just apply that to EVs. How about we do that? Just apply it. Because we're not going to be first, because we're far from that. We're not even going to be like fifth. We're going to be like last. But when we come out with the Supra EV,
You just wait.
It's killing everyone. Not killing, like it's awesome, not like actually killing.
Yeah.
Then we're going to be heroes. Just do that. Just like take a step back and say, you know what? Let's just get some smart people, put them in one building.
What a GR86 EV.
A GR86. Oh man, that would be awesome. Now I'm rethinking my MEB Miata stance.
Is your VW Miata no longer an option?
I don't really fit in the Miata, to be honest. GR86 EV though. Whew.
All these vehicles you could use that will never happen.
With their fake manual transmission that they're patented.
There you go. Yeah, that's probably why they patented that, to make an electric one.
There you go.
Just you know what to do, Toyota.
Yeah. All right. So the reason I drove the Maserati up to Traverse City, Michigan this week, I was at the management briefing seminars, which is a big annual conference put on by the Center for Automotive Research. And while I was there, I had a chance to sit down with Olabisi Boyle. Olabisi is the VP of Product Planning and Mobility at Hyundai Motor America. And we chatted about a whole bunch of stuff with EVs and charging infrastructure and Hyundai Home and Evolve Plus, which is their subscription service that they're playing with, that they're experimenting with EVs, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to drop that interview in right here, and we'll be right back with some listener Q&A. Hey everyone, it's Sam. This week I was up in Traverse City, Michigan for the Center for Automotive Research's annual Management Briefing Seminars conference at the Grand Traverse Bay Resort, and had a chance to sit down with Olabisi Boyle. BC is the Vice President of Product and Mobility at Hyundai Motor America. And so she basically oversees all of the product planning strategy for the company for North America, really, at least for the Hyundai and Genesis brands. And we sat down for a chat about Hyundai and where it's going, what they're doing. Really interesting conversation with BC. Sorry about some of the background noise. We were sitting in the lobby of the Grand Traverse Resort, and there were some families around, some kids in the background. Tried to suppress that down as much as I can, but you can still hear the conversation pretty clearly. So enjoy. Just want to chat about you, your role at Hyundai, how it's the first couple of years have been, and then kind of some of the challenges that the company is seeing and trying to address as you move into this era of electrification.
Yeah.
So let's start off with, you've been with Hyundai 2 years now.
Yeah.
You've had a good career, across several different companies. Like you were FCA, you were at Ford
and Visa.
So you got some different perspectives. So let's just start off with Hyundai and what that's been like for you. How has your time at Hyundai been so far?
It's been the best time to be at Hyundai, and for a couple of reasons. So one, I wanted to join Hyundai because it had a pretty dynamic leadership team under Jose Munoz, right? That was one piece. But then when I got here, I sort of discovered we have a transformational vision from our chairman as well. And how the last 2 years, what that has been is helping bringing all those pieces together to where we are. And now I'm noticing, I was talking about it when I first got here because it was new discovery for me, but now I sort of feel other people are noticing as well.
Yeah.
And so why the last 2 years have been so great is, so I'll take it in chunks, right? So there's a piece of it, let's talk about on the EV side, right? So, at the time when I first got here, we had the EVs that we had were Ioniq and the Kona EV, right? And so actually Hyundai's been in the EV
both really
business.
Good vehicles.
Exactly. Hyundai's been in the EV business for a while, so that's one piece of it. But then, so now that I'm here, now we're at the point where we have the eGMP platform, right, that allows us to spawn this Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, and one day Ioniq 7. And so I got to be part of the launch of the Ioniq 5. And everything that comes with, and then the thing that I love about this, not only are we bringing the technology, we're bringing the consumer experience. So on the technology side for the EV, you've got, the charging 10 to 80% in 18 minutes, the 800-volt architecture that enables that. You have 300 plus AER. You have all of that on the technical side, right? Then we've also thought about the features on the interior. So part of my role also is making sure that we have the North American voice for the vehicle that's going to be launched here. So I routinely go over to Korea and we review all the Genesis vehicles, all the Hyundai vehicles, and I give the North American point of view. And we're a large part of the volume for Hyundai. Mm-hmm. And so our voice matters a lot. And so you work with the engineers that are designing the center console, which, by the way, are women, might I just a side thing, that are designing the center console and designing the heads-up display and everything that goes along in the interior that makes it an experience for people. So not only did we come correct with this technology, but we're also bringing the experience piece. The other piece of my role that I get to do here from the North American standpoint is, all right, you have the vehicle, you have the technology, you might even have the experience piece. But I have to drive that thing every day. Mm-hmm. I have to take my child to daycare every day. So am I going to have a place to charge? Or is my building going to have home chargers? Maybe I live in an apartment. And so what was great under Jose's leadership, we have this what we call the MECA committee, Mobility, Electrification, Connectivity, and Autonomy. And in our MECA committee, we brought in a couple of things. And so on this experience side, so one of the things was, how do I buy this vehicle? I hear these EVs might cost more. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was EV subscription program, which we call Evolve Plus. But we wanted to make sure that our dealers are involved. One of the things that I feel is really great about our approach is we see the dealers as our partners in this EV transformation. And so what we got to do is work with some dealers to launch the Evolve Plus program such that you have, and we have to work with, in conjunction with the business unit, our Hyundai Capital, so that we could make this pencil for the consumer, pencil for the dealer, pencil for HMA, also pencil for Hyundai Capital. And so that took some coordination, but everybody was willing to do that. We got great dealers to work with us. We got Hyundai Capital, and what we did is we found you can come in, put a credit card down for a month, try before you buy. You get the Electrify America 2 years on your Ioniq 5, 2 years free charging for 30 minutes. And so we had to work with Electrify America on that piece of it. And
which will come back to big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, because that's part of the experience, right? Because some people have their home chargers at home. Some people are like, well, when I'm at home, I'm not at home. Where am I going to charge? And let's try to optimize those opportunities for our consumers. And so we worked collectively to launch that with dealers, and we had so many learnings from it. People could come in. Also, a little bit during the chip shortage, it was a new sales channel and an easy way to try this, and if it didn't work for me. And now we're having, because it's been going on a little bit now, conversion, where now I don't want to just subscribe to it. I want to actually buy this new EV. But it was also maybe when we're also going through the chip shortage, an opportunity for maybe a gas car. And so it lets people who maybe would have never considered an EV like, this thing wasn't so bad. And while I'm waiting for maybe the car that I came in for or whatever the case may be. So we have Evolve Plus. That was from a subscription and a new sales channel opportunity. And a way that works and pencils for consumers in a price range that they could work at. Then Hyundai Home. So this is, how do I bring the eco-friendly life?
Create an entire ecosystem around the car.
Right.
Which is something that's worked great for Tesla.
Right.
Getting people with the Tesla solar panels and the power walls and the car and everything else.
All of that is, but a lot of people, they do their research. How do you bring all those elements together? So with our ability, can we bring all those elements together and make it sort of easy for you? So first was launching our Ioniq 5. which we did in the first quarter this year. Second piece of it is going to be the home charger. So that's the most key thing. That's the out of those 4 elements, the charger and the energy storage, charger, energy storage, and solar panels, energy storage. The charger is important. So with that, we're going to launch in about a couple of weeks here. And then the third piece of it that we want to launch in third and fourth quarter are the energy storage.
The home battery.
And then that you have at home, right? So when your electricity goes out, if you have a thunderstorm in Traverse City, that happens. And then the fourth piece will be the solar panels. And so what we also want to do is make sure we have a variety of vendors that we work with, so there's many options for our consumers. So we've launched it in pieces. We didn't want to launch it all at one time because we're also, again, working in partnership with the dealers on that. So then there was the Hyundai home piece. Again, the experience. We know we're coming correct with technology. The experience matters. So we had Hyundai Home, we had Evolve Plus. Part of it was when we first launched with Electrify America on Kona and Ioniq. We were kind of testing it out. We found out what people really wanted. They liked the 2 years. They liked unlimited for 30 minutes, all that. And so we put that on the Ioniq 5. Now we're going to bring it to Genesis, and we're moving that on. So we'll have that. But we'll probably also work with other partners as well. Because the idea is, when we talk about challenges for EV, is I'm afraid that it won't go far, and then what am I going to do? I'm afraid I won't have a place to charge it. I don't know how I bring this to my house. So can we take care of all those other pieces? The last 2 years have led us, through our MECA committee, really sort of make inroads in bringing that piece together. We definitely have the technology piece. But then, now we're learning, I just got back from Korea last week. Now what we're doing is we're looking at our future vehicle is, do we have the platform that allows us for all sorts of segments? Because after a while, when you're in the car business, you care about the drivetrain, right? Is it ICE, is it power? But most people are like, look, I just want a car, and if this one saves me some money in gas, that'll be good enough for me. Everybody doesn't think necessarily as we are in the business. And so what we want to do is, you have a vehicle that works for you in your life in the segments that you need, whether it be car, purpose-built vehicle for cargo or for medical emergencies or whatever the case may be, or is it SUVs or whatever the case may be. And so what does that platform allow us to do for you in interior spaciousness and interior storage? So the way you use your vehicle. Most people won't even care whether it's EV or not EV, except it saves me on gas. Yeah. And so it needs to be a vehicle that works for me, not just any kind of vehicle.
They want to know that every day when they need to go somewhere, it's going to be ready for them.
Without any problem.
Right.
And so
they press the button, it goes.
But they also want things that people expect in their car, And so what we're doing is making sure there are features people want, features that resonate with people, features that make their life easier as they go along. And we have our discussions and debates to make sure that that's something that'll work for North America, because it's a little bit different for Korea, it'll be a little bit different for Europe, and so on and so forth. And so I find that there's a lot more upfront planning to make sure that it's not just an EV for EV's sake, or even to meet the mandates and the climate regulations, right? But it needs to meet those. But on top of it, does it meet the consumer needs? It's a vehicle that works for them in their life, not add stress to their life.
Right.
And so what's been great, you asked me, sorry, long answer to that question.
No, that's great.
But over the 2 years is to sort of help it sort of with the team get to that point, working with the team in Korea, working with my team here to sort of bring those pieces. We really had to understand the challenges. We really had to understand the consumer. We really had to try some things. We had to partner with our dealers. We had to partner with other business units. And, maybe this is wrong, whatever, but I laugh a little bit because now they're like, I'll get texts from friends, because I've been in the auto industry a long time. I worked at Ford, I worked at Chrysler. And now I'll get even Visa friends that are really into cars, and they'll send me these texts, and they're like, wow, every time you get, and might I say, Ioniq 5 won World Car of the Year, EV of the Year, Design of the Year. I left off design.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was in Korea last week. I saw Sang Yup while I was over in Korea last week. We've just taken design to a new level, both on Hyundai and Genesis, right? So again, a vehicle that looks good, people still care about that. A vehicle that looks good, whether it's EV or not, and the fact that it's EV, all the better.
Yeah.
And so we had the opportunity. Even when we came out with our ICE vehicle, our Santa Cruz. Look at the design on that. You look at the design versus other competitors, I would have to say, maybe I'm a little biased, but that's a sport activity vehicle that, is Instagram ready. And
it is certainly more stylish than a Maverick. I will give you that.
I didn't mention any competitors. I think you did, and I didn't say who was more stylish than. But it drives. I don't know if you had the opportunity to drive.
I have driven it. Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little biased, but I also think it drives and handles a little better with that 2.5 liter turbo. And so even from, I call it taking care of today and taking care of tomorrow. So, we have our Palisade family vehicle, right? We have our the Santa Cruz, which has great appeal. But, by the way, won in appeal in Best in Segment recently. And but then any responsible company should. Taking care of the future. And the future does involve EV. But the other piece, when you talk about joining the company, and why I was saying, I had mentioned our visionary chairman earlier, is, okay, so we have our EVs, we've laid out a platform, we have future platforms coming that'll take us in segments that meet everyone's needs in terms of EV, but we also have hydrogen, right? And to think people, and I remember conversations I'd have earlier when I first got here, they're like, well, the hydrogen battle is over. I'm saying, have you seen the climate objectives that we have to meet? It won't only be solved. Maybe those can be in commercial vehicles, but you need to develop technology. It's not a one or the other. We have significant goals that we want to address. So we've already come correct on EVs. Hydrogen is further back in the infancy of its journey, but we've made some progress. We have our Nexo, we have our Exient truck, and then we're also looking at eventually new technology, again, of our leader's vision in our joint venture with Motional, right? And so we have our Ioniq 5 that is in our Motional, that's going to be autonomous vehicle that we're looking at, and have some opportunities in Vegas to sort of run that around. And then
now San Diego and Santa Monica.
Exactly. Yeah. So here it is, Hyundai. So like I said, I get these texts and they're like, I'm like, I've been telling y'all we've been doing this for the last 2 years. Y'all just catching up. And so so you have your EVs, you have your in terms of mobility, you have your hydrogen, you have your autonomous vehicles, and then we're bringing robotics into it, right? You have some opportunities where maybe you can have basically an autonomous vehicle, but because of robotics has legs. Lets you climb up a brownstone in New York and settle itself down so someone can roll a wheelchair into it. It's aligned with our Progress for Humanity, where we want our technology to sort of serve people. It also uses our robotics technology. And then, as we recently, bought Boston Dynamics. And so from a perspective over the last 2 years, the mobility solutions to actually meet Progress for Humanity, the mobility solutions to make us into a smart mobility company, the new channels that end up getting set up as new ways to buy and sell and pay for EVs that we're working on, and the leadership that allows us to be as progressive and innovative to do that and make the deals with EA and make the deals with Shell, even, that wants to move into hydrogen and set up hydrogen stations. We're going to start out in California. So that we can collectively meet these climate challenges that we have. I mean, it's just been like a fabulous 2 years. I don't know. I look for another 2 more years.
Okay, question number 2.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I love that.
Sorry.
No, it's great to just be able to ask a question and just let you run with it. No, it's fantastic. I mean, you covered a lot of areas. And I think a big theme out of all that of what you just said was around the experience. There's so many aspects to experience. To the user experience of the vehicle, the ownership experience, the buying experience, and let's start with the kind of the buying experience. Dive into that a little bit more. One of the challenges for the Hyundai Motor Group over the last several years, really, even before the pandemic. Had some really great EVs, going back to the Ioniq and the Kia Niro and the Kona. It was availability. There simply weren't enough of them available. And I know from conversations I've had, with people in the company, going back to 2018, 2019, because of constraints on battery supply, I think was one of the big ones. You weren't able to ship as many of those EVs to North America as maybe you would have liked to. Prioritized some of the supply for markets like Europe, where the mandates required more EVs. What is Hyundai Motor Group doing as far? I mean, do you see a path to where that availability challenge? Because I know I've heard from a lot of people over the last 6-8 months since the Ioniq 5 and its siblings have launched, that they'd love to check. They can't find one anymore. Is there a path to when availability of some of those vehicles is going to be improved?
Yeah. One, it is improving.
Okay.
We have, I'll tell you, we have these governance meetings that are led by Jose Munoz and now Randy Parker. And one of our key challenges is discussing that availability. What's been great is because we've done so well in North America, we have a lot of opportunity now to work with our colleagues in Korea to prioritize some of that North American
get some more allocation.
Exactly. And we're doing, and that's really, and the leadership in Korea has really been supporting us with that. And now part of it was kind of overall capacity constraints. That wasn't just a North American issue, And so a little bit, that hasn't completely been resolved, but we're improving in that way. And now, especially with the way North America has performed, we have a lot more opportunity to sort of
You've demonstrated that people here actually want to buy these vehicles.
100%.
So give us some more.
So there's the opportunity. I'll let Randy and Jose talk about exactly how much, but where we are is that is an improving situation as we go forward, for sure.
Okay. Then the other piece, once the vehicles are available from dealers, the dealers themselves. You mentioned the dealers numerous occasions during that first question. One of the complaints you hear a lot from consumers, particularly around EVs, is that a lot of legacy OEM dealers maybe not so thrilled about selling EVs, because they think, I'm not going to get as much service revenue after sales, and things like that. And sometimes, they try to push people towards internal combustion vehicles, even if they come in looking for an EV, or maybe they're not as well educated as they should be about the EVs. To answer questions for consumers, what's being done to try to improve that situation, to improve the experience for customers that want to shop for an EV?
So, you talk about a little bit of the evolution of since I've been here over 2 years. So when I first got here, I wouldn't say everybody, but it was more what you described. Maybe not everybody being so excited about the electric vehicles and selling them. What I found over that evolution over 2 years, I literally just had a conversation with one of our regional GMs in the Chicago area, and it was mentioned that when we talk about how excited everybody is about these electric vehicles, the pressure on me where this dealer will call me and say that I can't get, and you gave more to that one and you gave this and to that one. She goes, oh my God. Like every time because what we have is we have these ongoing monthly touch points with our dealer council, but then we have quarterly, and we're about to have one in September with all the dealers and at NADA. And I will say the evolution of time, and I've actually with the head of the dealer NADA, and definitely I know both the heads of our dealer council, both on the Hyundai and Genesis side. That sort of mindset is really opening up. They see the benefits, so much so they see the benefits. They're arguing and fighting each other over who gets the electric vehicles. Because this is the thing. As we transition on this road to electrification, and you see that there's new sales opportunities and new sales channels associated with EVs, and I think one thing of benefit of working with Hyundai is we see the dealers as our partner in this. Because when the not early adopters who can afford really expensive EVs that came out at first, But the people that need kind of to get to work every day, they're going to go into the dealer and say, how does this work? What does this work for me? That's where they'll find out about Hyundai Home. That's where they'll find out about subscription for a while if you don't want to like make the investment and get a lease or whatever the case is. That's where they're going to find out, oh, this is how you bring a charger to your house. This is how I can help you out with this. So we know the dealers are partners, and we have shared this evolution in our thinking and our strategy and what our lineup is going to look like, to where the evolution from when I joined from 2 years ago to now, that attitude of I don't want, there are partners in this now. Even the most, let's call it skeptical, I see, we'll be out and we'll have our discussions, and the same people will kind of be like, I don't know about this, are not talking like that now. They're like, BC, when's the next one? When can we get our Ioniq 5? And I'll be like, okay, let's talk to Randy.
So now they see the consumers actually want them.
Yes.
They're starting to change their attitude.
Yes, and they see the opportunity. They see the people that are walking in to even ask about it and try about it. And so now it's about training. It's about, do you have your charger set up so when they come in? It's about, do you have all the guidelines so you can meet and get your Ioniq 5? Because we want requirements. If this is now something that you have to almost qualify for to some degree. It's just like, have you got your chargers in place? Have you met these needs? Have you met that? Do you have someone who can talk intelligently about how the EV is going to work and how it's going to work for consumers? And they're like, I got on my list. I'll have dealers now coming to me and they're like, oh, Beats, I got my chargers in. It's like and that did not happen 2 years ago.
Okay. Speaking of chargers, that is also a pain point for a lot of consumers. I mean, if you can, most people, at least today, anyway, somewhere between half and 2/3 of consumers have the ability to charge at home. They've got off-street parking. But when you want to take a longer trip, or as the market expands and you get into the used car market, and people that are buying older EVs that don't have access to off-street parking, they're going to be relying on public charging infrastructure. And I'm sure you're aware that today
it's not where it needs to be.
It's not where it needs to be, both in terms of availability but reliability.
Because you'll get there and one might be broken. It's not working.
I went to my local EA station last week with an EV that I was driving that was nominally capable of charging at 270 kilowatts. I plugged it in onto a 350 kilowatt charger, and I got 5 kilowatts. That is not an acceptable.
Of course.
And that was on the one that was working. The other one was completely offline. So, and I've talked to a lot of people, and this is a not uncommon problem. Is there anything that Hyundai is doing, in terms of your relationships with EA or other charging network providers to put some more pressure on them, or something to help them, to address this problem? So
there's a couple of, you talk about the infrastructure piece. There's also working with government piece, because it's great to put the mandates out that we need all these EVs, but we need to also have the requisite structure so that we don't have the issues that you just discussed. So we, again, part of our MECA committee, one of the things that we do is, and working with our government relations office, is what are we doing to locally, we're based in California, locally in California, but throughout the state, explain what we need to do with infrastructure. When we go into new things, like, because we're doing this on electric, but also hydrogen. So that's why we need to deal with Shell to develop 50 new stations in the California area and sort of work on Project Neptune to see what we can do with that. Because we don't want to just develop the technology and then now make a demand that's really hard to so you have to work with partners like Shell and EA, and we'll work with others. You have to work with the government so they understand what's required to do that. PHEVs are important, HEVs are important. The reason I put that is because everyone wants to go straight to BEV. But this is also a culture and a behavior change for people. I go to the gas station, in every corner of the cases. Maybe I do a HEV first, then I'm pull to a plug-in HEV, and then I move to battery EV. So we also want to work with them to understand the transition as we go to mass adoption is important. By the way, infrastructure as we go to mass is important. We're going to partner with every opportunity for infrastructure from a Shell to an EA that we can, because we want to make sure it's available for our consumers. We're also going to use our opportunity to influence them, as we need to make sure that they are all maintained when we do make that partnership. So you got the infrastructure, and then the awareness piece. So how do we make it through our app so you know where all the locations are? Also on an awareness piece is, how do you make it so that I didn't realize that there was places I could charge? Because some people think they can only charge at home. That's another place the dealers come in, right? And on explaining all that. So the infrastructure, the awareness, the working with government, the partnership.
Have you putting some signs up with those EA stations, that stick up above the SUVs that are parked around it? So you can know where in this parking lot is that EA charger?
Exactly.
Every gas station's got a 40-foot sign in the air, but.
And that's not a very technical, solution, but it's just a common awareness thing that people need, and communication that is needed. Again, I do think in all of this we have to understand. I call it the road to electrification. It is a journey. I think if you and I are having this conversation 5-10 years from now, especially on the not so much hydrogen, but maybe the BEV side, we'll be like, now we have much more infrastructure, or the case is. But we had this conversation back probably when I was at Ford and Texas 10-15 years ago. We had nothing, and no one was working on EV and all of that. So I think we have an opportunity.
Okay. I want to be mindful of your time. So I just want to a couple more things. One, on fuel cell. You've got the Nexo out there. It's a great vehicle. There's maybe about 45 hydrogen stations in California right now, roughly. And of course, Hyundai's also got the fuel cell trucks.
Excellent.
And I think we're just going to start deploying some of those in North America this year. You've had them in Europe for a while, in Korea.
More on a demo tech basis, but
Do you see fuel cell being a part of the solution for light-duty vehicles, or is it something that's going to really be focused more on the medium to heavy-duty market?
I think there's more opportunity, especially because you want to get the infrastructure to support it, on the medium to heavy-duty market. That doesn't mean that we want to forget light-duty, but I think if you build up the infrastructure for that, that'll help it now to scale down for the... you have more opportunities to scale when you do that. And so that's why we want to look at those opportunities. Now, that is behind in the journey from BEV. But for our collective universe, we're going to need all of these to make this work. It won't just be BEV and passenger cars.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember I wrote an article when I was writing for Autoblog 15 years ago. I wrote an op-ed piece, saying the end of the petroleum monoculture. Monocultures in any ecosystem are always a bad thing.
Right.
It's always unreliable, and we're going to need multiple kinds of solutions to do this. One last topic I want to address that I don't think you brought it up at all is software and services. We're getting into this era of the software-defined vehicle, and a lot of car companies are talking about generating new revenue streams on software and services. I haven't heard a whole lot from Hyundai about that. Is that an area that you're
absolutely? So we have connected car and our GV70.
Yeah, you've had Blue Link and
we have
the new brand.
And then in our G70 in Korea, we do have in-car payment, right? And so we're looking at the solutions there. I wanted, when we bring it to North America, to be a solution that really works for people here. But this is the key thing. I see this strategically as getting the technology in the stack, such that when the use cases become available, they're there. I'm in my new, cool sport activity vehicle, EV, and it's Instagram ready, and I'm sitting there, and gosh, I would love this cup holder that looks like my Santa Cruz, shaped in a certain way, and I can 3D print it, and I can voice activate it and pay for it from the digital credit card that's in my head unit. So there's going to be use cases, or I'm going through and I drive by the dry cleaners and I'm able to say, pay them on the way back, on the way passing through, and it just hit me because I was driving by my dry cleaner. So how do I make those services in the car? I can easily pay for them via voice. And so that's one opportunity. And then because of that, do I now have merchants and sellers that want to be on my head unit screen because of that, like they were on this big screen, but in such a way before we have autonomous vehicles that it's safe and I'm not trying to manage a phone and drive at the same time. Are there ways for different features that we can download on demand that are not features that used to be there before that people expect and now they're mad that you're charging them for it, but features that weren't there that help you with your productivity that maybe you didn't ever have in the past, but gosh, it would be really useful for me. But not everybody wants it. But I want it, and I'm willing to pay for it, or I'm willing to subscribe to that, or I'm willing. So there's lots of opportunities. So what I want to do while we're doing that is make sure the technology is in the stack to accommodate those use cases, so that once the use cases come, which I feel in the next 2-3 years they will, we're good to go. What I don't want is like, oh, such and such has come up with XYZ, so now let's run and try to get that. So let's get the technology that enables that to happen, and then the use cases that help people be productive while they're in the car, help people get their kids' homework done, help people pay off their dry cleaners, have people order this or that, have this delivered when they pass this, like I can order this, I can get the tickets because I just heard the Taylor Swift concert and the tickets are there and I can just order them and things that you happen to be in your car while you're doing it. And it's a use case that you're able to pay for. And then features that allow you to do that on a continual basis that not everybody wants, but if they do want it, they can download it to their car, feature on demand.
Okay. So can we expect to see $14 a month heated seats from Hyundai anytime soon?
Not for features that people already are used to and used to get the old-fashioned way. There will be new use cases. Trust.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, good. Good. Thanks.
All right. Let's answer some listener questions. Let's see. So first up, from Gupta AJ, he has a question about dealerships. Could you discuss the law around needing dealerships, and is anyone looking at doing away with that requirement? It would be nice to use the ridiculous delivery charge to have the vehicle at least delivered to my door as ordered and at the listed price someday.
Is it technically laws or is it all contract stuff between OEMs and dealerships?
No, there are
laws too.
There really
are laws.
There are laws.
And the problem with this is it's all at the state level.
So there's 50. There's
50 different laws in 50 different states.
Wow.
So some laws, and sorry, this was not from Gupta AJ. This was from Wes. AJ had a different question, but at any rate, the laws in some states they allow manufacturers to sell directly to consumers. Places like California, but like in California, for example, they only allow manufacturers to sell direct to consumers if they don't already have any existing franchise dealers. The franchise dealer system goes back to the early days of the auto industry in the early 1900s, when manufacturers, things were a lot different. Manufacturers were churning out cars, and they had to figure out, how are they going to sell these and get some cash flow to pay for the parts and pay their employees and everything. And so they came up with the franchise dealer system, where basically the manufacturer sells the car to the dealer. The dealer puts up the money, they pay for it, and then they turn around and sell it to consumers. And they handle service and delivery and all that stuff. And it was good for manufacturers because it allowed them to have more steady cash flow, get the money coming in as soon as the car was built and delivered to the dealer. They get paid for it, and then they can move on and build more cars and deliver more of them to dealers. And the problem is that, dealers were quite successful with this model. They made a lot of money, and they donated a significant chunk of that money to state and local politicians.
Dun, dun, dun.
Who in turn wrote laws to protect those dealers that were giving them all this money. And they said, that, for manufacturers that, okay, you've got these dealers that have invested all this money in your dealerships and your parts and your service and everything. So you're not allowed to compete with them anymore. You can't sell directly to consumers. And the laws are a little different in every state, but that's kind of the gist of it. Some states do allow manufacturers to compete and sell directly, but most, or let's see, in about half of states, they only allow them to compete if they don't already have dealers. So when Tesla came in, they had no dealers. They went ahead and set up their own company-owned stores. And other companies like Lucid and Rivian and VinFast are doing the same thing. But that also means that in some states where they're not allowed to compete at all, whether they have dealers or not, like Michigan, for example, they can't have company-owned retail outlets, and they in turn cannot sell cars directly to consumers in Michigan. If you're in Michigan and you want to buy a Tesla, you have to go online, order your car, and then go to Ohio or Illinois to take delivery. You cannot take delivery in the state of Michigan. It's illegal. Is anyone looking at doing away with this requirement? No. Because
long and short, no.
The
Too
dealers
much
still
money.
donate a lot of money to politicians, and as long as we have a system in this country where people donate to pay for campaigns, you're going to have stupid laws like this.
Yeah. It's funny
Pretty
that
much.
Tesla has their manufacturing facility in Texas, a state where they can't actually sell the vehicles they'll be building in Texas.
Yep.
They're like, well, I want a maybe not a Cybertruck, but another vehicle that's actually for sale from Tesla. You got to go Oklahoma.
You have to go to Oklahoma to buy
Yeah,
it.
you have to leave.
The whole time you got to sing the songs from the musical Oklahoma. That's the law.
Oklahoma. Okay, that's all I got. That's all I got. That's all you want to hear. Trust me.
And as far as the ridiculous delivery charge, really, even if a manufacturer doesn't break out the delivery charge, they're building that into the price. I mean, there's an inherent cost to deliver vehicles. You've got to put them on a truck or a train or a boat, and ship them somewhere, and that costs hundreds to thousands of dollars depending on where they're coming from. So that's going to be factored in somewhere. We've talked about this before. It shouldn't be a separate line item. It should just be built into the MSRP, because if it's not optional, then it shouldn't be broken out.
Right, it's not like you can say, I decline. I'd like to go pick it up at the factory.
Yeah.
I want my money back. That doesn't work.
I'm curious if that aligns with, if let's say someone builds an EV that's $59,990. In California and in New York, you can get a state tax credit on that vehicle. But if the delivery charge is a different line item, I wonder, I probably should have looked into this before I start talking, but if that line item is different, does that mean that car is still valid for that state level tax credit?
Is it a $60,000 threshold for the tax credit?
There's a $60,000 threshold.
Usually those things are based on MSRP. And since the delivery charge is not part of the MSRP, like this new, the Inflation Reduction Act, the new federal tax credits, it's based on MSRP. So they don't count the delivery. They don't include that in there.
Wow.
But interestingly, the first company that is actually, while the delivery charge is not included in the MSRP, General Motors no longer actually, when the advertised prices for their vehicles include the delivery charge.
Good for them.
If you dig in, you'll see the MSRP is actually a lower number, but they never talk about the MSRP anymore. They talk about the price as delivered, which is good. I'm glad to see them doing that, and I'd like to see everybody doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you got to do some weird accounting shit in the background, to say that it's a separate line item, but we're not going to talk about that line item, that's fine. Just tell people what it's actually going to cost them. AJ, he had a tweet. There was a picture or a little video clip, on a beach. Oh, okay. I guess he's asked. He's looking out from somewhere onto a beach somewhere on a nice sunny beach, and just says this or Michigan, and.
I don't even know where that's at. That could be behind him. There could be fires. There could be a war.
Yeah,
but I'm like,
exactly.
you know what? I'm going to go with that.
Yeah,
I like this. Yeah, I'm going to also go with that.
The video clip, looks lovely. It's a lovely beach. and I would certainly wouldn't mind spending time there, but I would probably rather live in Michigan because we don't have earthquakes or fires or
Not
or droughts.
Not yet.
Details. Ugh.
All right. Jay Barnett asks, really would love to better understand the apprehension from automakers to limiting vehicle speed. It's become almost as taboo as something like placing a limit on the number of bullets a weapon will hold. Well, Volvo actually, to their credit, is actually limiting vehicle speed to, I think, 111 miles an hour
Which is
on
still
their new vehicles.
ridiculous. No one should be driving that fast. But
No,
let's carry on.
But yeah, they're limiting their vehicle speeds. That Levante,
187.
Is anybody gonna drive 187 miles an hour in that thing?
It's marketing. It's
It's
like,
about bragging rights.
Yeah,
It is.
Saying mine's bigger than yours.
That's exactly what it is.
The reality is you don't need to be going. You should not be going 100 miles an hour at any point on the road in the United States. Period. Done.
And you also don't need to go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's
But
also
it's
a weird
nice.
thing.
I mean, but
it's
it's
also
nice.
bragging rights. But it's also
Yeah.
how many people are doing launch control after they've had their car for a month
Or a week.
or a week. You're like, yeah, I did some launch control. Well, let me get on with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played with that. I'm done now. Next.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't. It is literally marketing and bragging.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I think most manufacturers are actually limiting the speeds, at least compared to what they could do on their EVs, just because they want to make sure that they still get a decent range. And, the aerodynamic drag goes up as a function of the square of the velocity. So the faster you go, if you double your speed, your aerodynamic drag goes up by a factor of 4. EVs are very susceptible to aero drag, which is why when you're driving on the highway, your range drops off pretty dramatically if you're driving at 85 versus 65, so most of them are limiting the speed of their EVs to not much more than 100. There are exceptions, of course.
Yeah, I know there's a whole sect of the automotive journalism industry that doesn't believe that speed kills. They're like, oh, speed. I'm like, no, that's just physics.
It's the sudden change in speed that
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, well, if
Exactly.
I'm going really fast, it's like saying, falling doesn't kill you. I'm like, yeah, but eventually you hit something.
Yeah.
Like the act of falling doesn't
it's
kill
the sudden
you.
deceleration.
It's when you hit
Blam.
something. It's the same thing
Yes.
with driving, and it's really sort of eye rolling whenever you encounter that, and I'm just like, you're just. I don't know. It is bragging rights, and the reality is you can have a lot of fun going up to 60 miles an hour, to be completely honest, in a car. Do autocross. I mean, you're never really going that fast, but you're doing but you're going to have a lot of fun doing autocross. So it's I don't know. The people they're afraid there's going to be backlash because of course there will be, and there'll be op-eds because of course there will be, and then something about freedom because of course there will be.
There will be.
But freedom, right?
you
Yeah,
c-
but we're already limiting a lot of things on vehicles, but whatever.
And what you could do is you could do like what GM does with Super Cruise. You can geofence it so that if you've got a high performance car, you're taking it to a track day, and you're on a
Oh
racetrack.
yeah, open it up.
You
yeah.
can unlock it there.
Knock yourself out. Go crazy.
System knows
That's
where you
what
are.
track days are for. Well, maybe not
Yeah.
too crazy. Don't throw it into the gravel.
But if you're on a public
$17,000.
road, you limit it to say 90 miles an hour maximum.
I think 90 is
There you go.
I think 90 is a good number because there's a lot of places where you can do 70, and there's places you can do 80, and there are sometimes you're if you're out running the cops, you're gonna want to be able to do 90.
Yeah.
At least 90. You don't need to go any faster than 90, to be completely honest. Anything above that, that's just dumb. You're just being dumb. If you're out running the cops, or the mob, or
Be
the yakuza, or anyone who you've angered, maybe a spouse, you don't really need to go faster than 90. Just drive. What you do is just drive into a parking structure where the helicopters can't see you, and then you ditch the car and run away. The end. There you go.
Yeah.
The end. And there's your story. That's
there's
it.
your
That's
story.
the end. That's
All right.
it.
How to get away
Last
from
one. Last one comes from and that. What would it take to make wagons cool again? Is there an EV1 planned from any of the big manufacturers, or is everything just a crossover now?
No one will think they're cool except for automotive journalists forever.
Wait a minute.
I mean,
Whoever
that's
said
the
wagons were
reality.
not cool? Wagons have always been cool.
Wagons have always
Only
been
if you're an
cool.
automotive journalist.
You're either an automotive journalist or a deep enthusiast, like you just love all
Yes,
cars enthusiast.
That's it.
It's
Nobody
just
else
us.
wants a wagon
The
anymore.
rest,
It's just
the rest of the world are like, oh, I don't know if I'm like, no, wagons are awesome, and they're never
Yeah.
going to listen to us because we all just keep saying how awesome wagons are. And you know what? No one will sell wagons
No one
because they
wants to buy
can't
them.
sell them. Volvo's like, hey, we're going to sell some wagons, and everyone's like, except for us. We all got excited. We're like, yay, wagons! And then everyone else, like, we all did nice write-ups on the wagons. They all got great reviews, and nobody bought them.
nobody bought them. So guess what? No wagons.
Yeah, I mean, the only person I ever knew that bought an Acura TLX wagon was a journalist.
See? You have proved the point. There you go.
Dan Pund had
yeah.
a TLX wagon.
The space Volkswagen had the Space Vision EV wagon that they showed off at the LA
that
show.
thing was gorgeous.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful. And then we had a talk with oh my God, what's his name? CEO of
Herbert
Volkswagen.
Diess?
Not Herbert. Volkswagen US. He's now doing Scout.
Oh, Scott Keogh.
Scott. So we had a whole conversation with Scott, and at some point I think that people at some point kids are going to be like, oh, SUVs are the things my parents drive, and they're going to look at other vehicles. And I like to think that's true someday, hopefully, fingers crossed, but so far it's not. And we don't have the Space Vision,
Yeah.
space awesome electric wagon coming. So,
Yeah.
oh, America.
Maybe we'll get some someday.
Part of the fun of going to Europe is just staring at wagons, because over there wagons are huge.
Yeah.
Forget all the sites in Europe. I'm like,
Oh.
I'm just here to stare at the wagons.
Just
Thanks,
here to
I'm
look
good
at
sitting on this
wagons.
bench.
No, I'm good.
Just
I'm
give me
here.
another coffee. I'm going to sit here and watch the wagons.
What is that? Parthenon of wagons.
I love wagons. They're great. I mean, they have all the benefits of a car with some extra cargo space.
It's everything you want.
Yeah.
My favorite
It's
car
perfect.
was my WRX wagon. It was a wagon that went fast
Yeah.
and had all-wheel drive. It was outstanding. I could I could rally, and then also go to Home Depot and pick up some mulch.
Exactly. You'd be surprised how much mulch you can put in a wagon.
There you go.
Yeah.
You don't need a truck. You just need to do your rally thing and then go pick up the mulch.
Yeah, pick up the
Yep.
mulch. I don't.
All right. On that note, let us say goodbye for this week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
O'Reilly.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.